There's more to come from what I understand, and they're going to be far greater than what you've seen so far. And what you've seen so far is incredible, especially as it relates to President Obama. Because if anyone thinks that he and Sleepy Joe Biden didn't know what was going on, they have another thing coming.
That was President Trump predicting more bombshells surrounding the origins of the Russia probe and involvement of Obama-era officials as the DOJ drops the case against former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn.
Our next guest worked as Flynn's deputy.
KT McFarland is former Deputy National Security Advisor and author of the book Revolution. She joins us now. Good morning, KT. How are you?
I'm just great, and thank you so much for having me on. Great to be with all three of you today.
Great to be with you.
Well, you're a great guest to have here because now we are doing the Saturday morning digest of the big news of the week. Of course, the DOJ dropping the case against Michael Flynn. And you've weighed in before, but my question to you to start us off is, so now, today, Andy McCabe says there was always a motivation to go after Michael Flynn. It predated Trump's candidacy. It was his threat to national security. But what do you think McCabe and the entire group's motivation was?
I think they had a couple of motivations. I mean, one was to get Flynn, because they had to do a preemptive strike against Flynn. In fact, even the director of counterintelligence for the FBI wrote in his handwritten note, said, what's our goal here, to get Flynn in a perjury trap or to get him fired? Well, they needed to get rid of him because Flynn, for a couple of reasons. One, Flynn knew where all the bodies were buried. He had been in the Obama administration. He had been director of DNI, so he had been a director of the military intelligence during the Obama administration. He knew all these characters. He knew where all the bodies were buried. Number two, he, as director of DIA, he had promised and had carried out a pretty significant reorganization of that intelligence agency, and he and I and the president talked about doing the same thing in the Trump administration, to look at those 16 sprawling intelligence agencies, reform, streamline, reorganize. And so the people who were in the bureaucracy, they didn't want any changes, of course. And then I think the most important motivation, get rid of Trump. Stop Trump dead in his tracks. What better way to do it than to go after the National Security Advisor? And they went after me in the same way, to go after his national security team. And then he would be hamstrung. He wouldn't be able to operate. And ultimately, I think their goal was to get people to flip and to talk about Trump and say that he committed crimes that he didn't commit. And then they could get rid of him from office. So it was a pretty big motivation.
Right. KT, you wrote an excellent op-ed. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
You wrote an excellent op-ed for FoxNews.com in which you discussed the fact that AG Barr had the right to drop the charges, and you talked about holding those that framed the general accountable. What would that look like to you, and explain to viewers how that would work?
Okay, Emily, normally what happens in government is when there's a scandal, the head of the agency, in this case the director of the FBI, Wray, says, well, you know, we want to protect the institution. So they get rid of a few mid-level guys, they become sacrificial lambs, they rewrite a couple of regulations, and the big guys, the guys who were responsible, they kind of fade away, they slither back, they retire, you don't see them again. And so the real culprits never get caught, and the institution carries on. In this case, President Trump has promised me, personally, several times, we're going to find out what really went on and how high up it went. And what looks to me like happened is that it was the senior levels of the FBI, certainly Comey. He bragged about sending an agent to the White House to try to trick Flynn. So certainly Comey, the Deputy Director McCabe, certainly him. But how much higher did it go? Was it the Attorney General? Was it Susan Rice, National Security Advisor to President Obama? Was it Vice President Biden? Was it President Obama himself? I think those are the people that I'm looking at. What did they know? When did they know it? If they're clean, fine. But if they're not, let's find out what really happened.
Well, KT,
because in my opinion, yeah,
well,
go
finish.
ahead.
In your opinion,
Sorry.
please. I shouldn't cut you off right there.
No, in my opinion, this was a cabal of senior people in the Obama administration and the intelligence community to get rid of Trump, stop him dead in his tracks, and to make sure he didn't have an opportunity to drain the swamp. Why? Because they were the swamp.
Flurry of activity in January of 2017. You got this meeting in the Oval Office we now know about where Barack Obama did know about information on Michael Flynn. You got the executive order 12333 that loosened the sharing of intelligence. I mean, so you're saying potentially all the way up to President Obama, this was known and this was intentional, and there's more to come.
Yeah, I think that the way the Attorney General Barr has dismissed charges indicates to me that there's a lot more to come.
Yeah.
That there's a treasure trove of documents, handwritten notes, and probably in addition, somebody is really talking. You know, that January 5th meeting, I met with the same intelligence people as President Trump did in Trump Tower the next day. So that was Comey, Brennan, Clapper, and they clearly hated Trump's guts. They could hardly be in the same room with him. And that's where Comey pulled Trump aside after our meeting, and he talked to him about the Steele dossier, which has since been completely discredited. And I think it was basically an attempt to sort of shake down Trump.
Mm-hmm. We shall find out more. KT McFarland, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, KT.
It's great to be with all three of you. Thank
Great to
you.
have you.